Oh, yeah.
Hey,
So as we go into some movement, let's say some simple arm swings, notice your alignment, develop your internal awareness. You allow and coax your joints to go in the direction of opening, expanding, or again, simply notice when you go in the other direction. So for example, when I start doing more vibrant arm swings, it's a normal tendency to start to contract, tighten the joints, totally normal, and I literally want to go the other direction. So half the battle is noticing when you lose those things. So if I do a stronger turn, noticing my abdomen tighten up a little bit, definitely my shoulder joints, even my neck. Notice those things. So a big part of what we're developing is our awareness, thinking our awareness into our body and noticing more in our body, and then therefore being able to change more in our body because we're able to notice more. By using the legs in a more contractual way than you need, we often talk about simply pressing the foot down, pressing the leg down rather than contracting the leg to move. That's a very different quality than contracting. And that's what makes internal martial arts different than external martial arts. Rather than relying on muscular contraction, we open the body and we develop the connection of the fascia network. So we've become more unified and we use the collective power of everything connected and everything opening rather than contracting. So these warm-ups are really an opportunity to do that. They're much more than just physically warming up. It's actual training, training these internal qualities. And then the opposite hip turn. Good. Opening up through both arms equally, equal awareness through both arms. Even as we do different directions with the arms, always equal awareness, equal opening, equal expansion. Even when the arms seem to be going in different directions and we have different shapes on different sides of the body. Everything's always equal awareness, equal releasing, and some hip turns. Noticing if your lower back is a little bit tight and the muscle shortened. Point the tailbone to the ground, let the lower back release and open. And the same thing with the knees, circles. And to the front corner and back, front corner and back. Straight forward, knees over the feet, all the way back. Now, I'm going to turn sideways so you can see I'm going to come up, pushing my hips forward and rolling up through the spine. In fact, I'm going to repeat that. So these are called spinal waves. I send the hips back, I sit back a little bit, and then I bring the tailbones, like someone has lassoed my tailbone, and they're pulling it forward by the rope. And one vertebrae at a time, try to manage one vertebrae at a time being pulled forward. So again, that develops the internal awareness, the mind-body connection. Eventually, you can actually sense and affect and control one vertebrae at a time. But at first, you large chunk it, right? Two vertebrae at a time, do the best you can. Take a lot of focus and attention and intention. Sitting back a bit so that you can have the tailbone come forward, and then one bone at a time until it eventually waves through the neck and head. Good. And we can actually do that sideways as well. Make sure your knees are well bent. Same thing, the tailbone moves first, but now sideways. I always like to liken this to seaweed flowing in the ocean. Tailbone goes first, followed by the next bone, next bone, next bone, next bone, all the way up the spine. And then tailbone goes the other way. Very, very therapeutic for the spine, especially when we're sitting a lot and we're not getting a lot of movement through the entire body. Keep the spine supple and flexible. One vertebrae at a time here. Good, and then chin down, just roll the head along the front of the chest here. Good. And a long stance to get even more of a stretch in the back of the leg and calf and Achilles tendon. You can turn the back foot straight forward. Normally we have about 45 degrees, 30 to 45 degrees in the back foot. We angle it straight forward, get more of a stretch, send the hip forward, nice big arc, and then arch. Activate, energize the hand blades, big arc going forward, touching down, touching the back of the front leg. Knee down, push hips forward. Release the abdomen, notice your spine, see if you can allow more space between the vertebrae. So arch here. Forward. Press into the ground to be pushed up from the ground. Tenkai. Hips forward. Nice big arc through the hand blades. Big arc forward and down. Stretch. Keep the body open. Allow the breath to move through the body. The body, in a sense, is empty and open. So the breath energy is free to move through that open, spacious body. Knee down. Push hips forward. Stretching the front of that hip. Arc here, energize the hand blades. Right through the edge of the little finger. Forward, press down, come on. Okay, so moving into the 9th Q program. So most basic footwork, white belt program, here Mitsubishi, for maintaining a forward stance, forward attitude, carrying center line. Mentally, we're like an arrow. And so physically, we become like an arrow. Hanmi no kamai. Hanmi means half stance. Han means half. Mi means body. So this is like here, fully frontal, full body, half body. It's like an arrow. And that again is informed by our strong forward focus, our irimi attitude. So of course, basic footwork, irimi sugiyashi. And then we add tenkai on top of that. So again, tenkai, we want to make sure we shift the weight to a forward stance, not leaning, just slightly forward. So let's approach that slowly a couple times. Hidari, left leg forward. So here, Mikugiashi. Then we do a tenkai. We pivot to the right, turn on the left heel, turn on the right heel. Weight is slightly more into the right leg. So we're forward stance there. So we're pointing to that back corner. So if we're facing a wall here, call this the front wall. Of course, in this case, it's our Shomen wall. Facing the wall. Here, Mitsugiashi, we're to the corner. Tenkai, we're to the opposite corner, the rear corner. So just a normal tenkai. Forward stance to forward stance. Make sure that back heel isn't popping off. Hips under the head. Strong flow. Okay? So, Sugiyashi, tenkai. Sugiyashi, tenkai, flow into that right leg. So let's do that on 2 counts. So that's 1, 2. 1, 2. Remember, the mind leads the body. Mind leads the body. We extend ki, and we let the ki move our body. Now, the huge reason why we spend so much time in cultivating an open body, a relaxed, released body, open body, so the body can be a better instrument for our mind, a better vessel for our ki flow. So if our body is soft and open, when we send our ki, when we focus our mind in a certain direction, the body is soft enough and open enough to be influenced by that ki flow, by that mental intention. The body, just like a weather vane or a windsock, if the wind is strong enough and that windsock is soft enough, when the wind, just the smallest puff of a wind, it fills that windsock and turns it in the direction of the wind. If that wind is strong enough and that windsock is soft or refined enough. If our mind is strong enough, our intentional flow is strong enough, and that's why we spend a lot of time with weapons training, developing a strong intention, and our body is soft and open enough, when that wind moves, that's the key, or the mind, the body is soft enough to be a good servant of the mind, a good reflection of the mind. So my mind moves me here, my mind turns me. My mind moves, my body follows, my mind turns, my body follows. So that once you have a sense of this movement, and many of you are very familiar with these basic movements and footwork, the more and more you develop the mind-body connection. Remember that principle of already there, I'm already here, I'm already here. And the body is that soft windsock, and it just spun around by a strong, clear mental direction. Okay, let's do the other side. So Migi Hanmi, right leg forward. So offline, slight turn, and a pivot. Tenkai. Into the front leg, left leg. So right side forward. So that's Irbi Sugieshi, Tenkai. Body open and light, like a good windsock. Mind clear, strong, and directive. So 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Clarify your structure, posture. Blow your mind out through this entire windsock. Knees, knee. Okay, then to do another basic movement, Tenkan. We all know Tenkan. So we add that on top of our basic movement. So here we Sugieshi, Tenkan. We end up facing that same back corner, but now we're doing Tenkan instead of Tenkai. So left leg forward, so that's Irimi Sugieshi. Turn a little bit on the front foot, on the ball of the left foot. Full turn back with that right leg, maintaining a forward attitude, weight slightly forward. Notice if you teeter when you swing that leg behind you, it's kind of a normal thing to counter weight that turn. But here, of course, we're compromised and we're diverging from the natural vertical flow of gravity. So when to turn around our axis, keep that weight flowing freely through the body as we turn. Okay, so that's Irimi Sugieshi, Tenkan. Sugieshi, Tenkan. So we do that in 2 counts. So Sugieshi is 1, Tenkan is 2. And it's good training to keep the flow going at the end. Now, all of you are familiar with this idea that we hold our, if I just do a basic Sugieshi, we often talk about hold the posture at the end for 2 or 3 seconds, 2 or 3 mindful seconds. And why? Because we always say it's to correct anything that needs correcting. But more experienced people, that time at the end of your movement, probably your structure is getting pretty refined. So that time now is more about, are you still flowing mentally? Are you still flowing energetically? Is your body still open and released? So for example, when I do this movement, I can kind of illustrate this quite well because there's a lot of movement in this particular one. So am I tightening up? Am I tightening up when I turn around and then resetting? So I get a chance to work on keeping the body open, mind open and flowing. And at that end position, it gives me a chance to correct the mental flow and the body openness. Your structure is probably pretty good at the end because you have experience, but how is your mind? How is your energy? Have you sucked back into your space here, or are you still open and flowing? So that's basically the work once you've gotten through the basic movement. Okay, so maybe a couple more here. So 1, 2, check your feeling, quality of energy. 1, 2. And let's do the other side. So Migi, so that's Sugiyashi and Kan. Did you contract? Did you pull in? Or did you stay open and flowing? Even in the turning parts, even in the big movements, are you staying aligned, open and flowing? Again, more experienced people, eventually that open and flowing is in not just forward. We talk much about forward stance, forward attitude. Eventually, it's not just forward. You don't play favorites in terms of energetic expansion. No favorites in terms of direction. All open. So, Sugiyashi and Kan. Each, knee. Each, knee. Hang out. Mind leads the body. Each, knee. Yeah, let's take a look. Yeah, try to stay vertical. Notice if you're leaning. Weight falls freely through your body, straight down. Okay. So, if we do another technique from the 9th Q program, we call it Ushiro Tenkan. And we use that term for moving back. Ushiro is back. Tenkan is turning that leg, turning the hips back. And I just emphasize that I'm turning my hips to step. So that's why we call it Ushiro Tenkan. 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 In other words, I don't want to just step back and stay frontal again. I don't want to be frontal. I want to be hanmi, half body. It's more easy to defend, and it's harder to get to, and easy to deliver. Half body. Okay. So the more experienced people, one of the things to watch out for. A lot of times people get the idea, the illusion that we're swinging our leg in this arc. So that's one thing that tends to happen with this. And that happens, I believe, because they see the hip turning, and they kind of somehow translate that into the foot doing an arc. My foot steps straight back, but it's my hip turning, hip turn. So I don't want to go out here. It's stepping straight back. Turning around your center line, central axis. That's all. So I'm just doing this. And let that hip turn drive that foot. Another thing that tends to happen is people tend to drag that foot, especially if they're swinging it around. But even if they don't, they tend to be heavy on this. So that's another tendency that really happens often. You're barely touching the ground. It's like a hovercraft. If this is my foot, this is the ground, not this. Because of course that's too much friction. You get stuck, you can get tripped. But the reason why we don't step like this, and also forward too, the reason why we step in this stealthy manner, with sword, we're stepping with the ball of the foot. That's so that if we step normally, it's very overcommitted. Imagine if it was dark out, you can't see the ground very well, and you step and there's a hole in the ground or a divot or a rock that comes loose. You're committed there, all your weight's falling, and you're going to fall into that divot. And you could, of course, damage your ankle or your knee. But even if you don't, you're compromised and vulnerable for a second. Even if it's not dark out, you don't know really what's under the grass or what's under the first layer of the ground. And so if you just drop your weight, you're at the mercy of whatever you happen to step on. So it's like a hovercraft where you're lightly sensing. So stepping back is lightly touching down, then you shift your weight into that back heel after you touch down. So it's like that sensitive hovercraft. So we're in nice Hami no Kamai. Turn the hip, step back lightly, turn the step back lightly. Of course, we're keeping our flow outward. That's what keeps my arms out. So I don't want to come back with my arms because I'm stepping back. Watch out for your shoulders coming up. Still hanging out, weight sinking through the legs. Arms are only moving because the legs are switching. And for this basic level, we want a strong forward attitude as you move back. Having a strong forward attitude will prevent things like leaning back when you're stepping back and collapsing in with your arms if you're thinking of going back. Strong forward attitude, strong forward flow, even as you turn your hips to go back. Okay. So pick a side, Hami no Kamai. We're going to touch briefly on strikes. More experienced people, you want to make sure, again, it's coming from that back foot, turning the hip. Turning the hip is what raises that back arm. Step, step down. Want to finish at Chudan. Chudan means middle level. If I finish lower than that, all this is open. If you finish at Seigon or Chudan. Hip drives the elbow forward and up, dropping your weight into that front foot, into that front hip. The power. So using gravity and adding, joining with gravity. Be very sensitive to your center line, up your center line, out, way out, and down center line. Other hand is still alive and active, actually equal. And a few on the other side. See how whole body you can make just raising the sword, how whole body you can make it. From the ground, through the feet, to the whole body. And as the weight drops through that front hip as you step, you join with that power. So all that accumulated power you get to tap into. You're mining all that, bringing it together. Okay, so that's the 9th cue. So that's new for Breton. Shomanuchi, striking with the blade of the hand. 7th cue, we add the footwork, Sugiyashi, and that's going to be the front side, not the back side. Front side. Okay, so Sugiyashi, Shoman. Last class, we worked on the timing. The back foot raises the sword. As that back foot slides in position, that's the cutting of the sword. Okay, do a few on the other side. Nigi, each. Knee. Now, experienced people, okay, especially much more experienced people like Mike, but all of you can do this, but more experienced people will have more room in the brain to work on this visualization. Imagine something coming towards you and you're intercepting them. So you're not striking or engaging a stationary object. It's not like your object is here, your attacker's here, and you're moving off here and striking them and they're still there. They're coming in towards you to grab you, strike you, push you, whatever. So they're coming in, you're intercepting that. So it's not that your target is right here, and you come over and strike that target, it's still there. Probably not going to still be there. By the time you move, it's going to be right here. So you want to perceive that, visualize that, and so you intercept that attack, intercept that movement. As you come offline, you're striking that target as it's coming towards you. but much more dynamic, much more active in your mind, your awareness, your intention. So when you come off a strike, you have a sense that that object has come in and you're intercepting their path. You're getting offline, you're getting out of the way and intercepting that path. So you're not moving over to strike someone who's just standing there. You're intercepting as coming in to try to get you, come offline, and you intersect their path. Okay? So we also do this in the 7th cue with Irimi Ayumi Ashi. So the back foot coming offline, turning 45 degrees. Now that is going to be the back arm now, as we normally do for Shomen. So as I step offline with the back leg, that raises the sword. As the front foot comes back, that back corner, that's the cutting of the Shomen. So now we're just doing Ayumi Ashi. Okay, so that's raise the sword, cut. Each knee. Each knee. And Brenton, you can either follow along with us, or you can continue to work on your movement, simply doing Shomen. If you want to follow along, try to incorporate this footwork, that's fine too. So senpai, again, imagine something coming towards you. Okay, let's do the other side. So Ayumi Ashi, Shomenuchi. Ayumi Ashi, Shomenuchi. So imagine that target coming in, it's moving dynamically, offline, intercepted. Offline, intercepted. Good. Now, let's make this a little bit more alive and intense. I'm going to be that object. So I'm going to come towards the camera. And of course, you're going to have to imagine that once I get really close, I'm jumping out of the screen right into your room. So you have to intercept. So again, you're not hitting a stationary target that's here, and then you're getting it where it is, stationary. You're getting it where it is now, intercepting it. It's much more dynamic. So let's go back to Sugiashi. Okay, so left leg forward, offline, Shomen. Sugiashi, offline, Shomen. And I'll come towards you. See if you can time that. I'm going to change my timing or speed a little bit. So you have to really work the brain to work the timing. Yeah, try to intercept my attack. Where I'll be. Okay, one thing I'm seeing, senpai, something I'll throw real quick. I'm seeing you raising the sword maybe a little bit too early. You can see that this is going to keep me a little bit open and exposed if I illustrate this. There's too much time where I'm open, right? So even that. My movement raises the sword. And as I said, look at that back position, it cuts the sword. So just like if we had an actual sword, I don't want to come in like this. You've got me. I come in behind my cut. So watch that you're not having all this space that's open, covering your center line, cut. Good, much better. Let's do the other side now. So right side forward, offline, Sugiashi Shomen. So practice at home with your spouse or your pet. When they're coming towards you for a hug, get offline, intercept that hug. In a friendly but effective manner. Good, okay. Nice big breath in, expanding out, open your joints. Breathe out, settle back to your center. Breathe in, open your joints, even your finger joints, your spine, your finger joints, settle back to your hara, just flow